there's a man on the beach, and he's walking along the shoreline, and he sees this other guy far ahead of him, and he's just tossing these starfish that are all washed up on shore, and there's thousands of them. He goes up to him and he's like, "What are you doing? Like, are you trying to save all these starfish?" He's like, "I am." He's like, "You do realize you're not going to save every single one."
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Eddie Austin VEX podcast. I've got a special guest on the day that is absolutely changing the way that people see investments. And I believe that this young man has one of the best whys that I've ever seen somebody publicly talk about. And I want you to share that now.
Eddie, thank you so much for having me on. This an absolute pleasure, and big fan of your podcast, big fan of your work as well. And I think your why is also as equally, or if not better. To introduce myself, my name is Michael Rebelo. I'm a 20-year-old entrepreneur who chose entrepreneurship over the traditional college path. I'm inspired and driven by my goal to retire my mother, who is also my business partner, and to also teach other people like her in middle America and also some of my generation as well that want to break that mold and to learn about multifamily real estate. That's my business with Everforward Capital Partners, to learn and invest in multifamily real estate and to build long-lasting financial freedom. So that's a little bit about me.
Man, I love that. You know, I got to ask, because there's so many. You're 20 years old, is that right?
That is correct.
20 years old. You're here in the big boy world of real estate investments. You've had some success. You're building more success every day. It's Everforward. You know, that's such a beautiful name because everything you do is just Everforward. And you do great posts, you do great things, but what got you to really think differently instead of going the traditional method of going to college and getting a degree and everything else? Like, what really spoke to you? Like, what did you see that really got you to think, man, there's a better way. There's a different way?
That is a great question. So it started back when I was still in high school when I was 17. And I knew that my mom was a hard worker. And she would tell me that, when I was very, very young, like infant and going to 5 years old, she would work double jobs just to keep the roof over our head for her parents and also me. And I didn't understand until I was older of how much that is and how much effort it takes and how much time. And I was like, that doesn't even seem fair. That doesn't even seem real. But I didn't know how quite to grasp it. But throughout my high school career, I've always taken business and finance and entrepreneurship because I've always been fascinated with that. For example, investing in stocks, the S&P 500, how does a 401k work, the IRA, the traditional playbook that everyone's familiar with. My mother comes home one day and she was like, "Hey, we need to talk." And I'm like, that could be a numerous amount of things. So now I'm concerned. But she brings out a notebook and a pen. She's at the kitchen table. And she's like, "I'm going to teach you about compound interest, how CDs work, 401ks, and IRAs from my perspective, and how they've been performing over the past few years." I'm like, okay. After that roughly half an hour session, I realized that there has to be a better way. And we both agreed on that. We were like, this can't be the only way out to get into retirement. And it was to the point where I was looking at that notebook and thinking, wow, my mother's retirement is not even sure. It's a question mark at this point. Is she going to retire? And that really hurt, where I was like, she's doing all of this work. In my personal opinion, of course I'm biased, she's a very high valued individual where she knows how to work, knows how to put in the effort. I've been surrounded by family members that know how to work, whether it's construction, whether it's real estate, or just making their way up the corporate ladder. And I'm like, something doesn't add up. Like, why does she have to work so much for the dollar when it's not even working for her? So right. Throughout those couple of weeks, we're sitting down figuring out where we could put our money so it could make money for us. We looked at oil, we looked at gold, silver, all kind of different things. And I told her, "Mom, I'm learning about the S&P 500, how to invest in stocks. If we could develop some play money, quote unquote, I could invest into the stock market. I can open a Fidelity account and just go full bore, just completely bullish." And she was like, "All right, let's see how you do." Eddie, I kid you not, I was glued from market open to market close on Bloomberg, Schwab Network, Yahoo Finance, and just starting to day trade, finding the newest stock, the newest ticker symbol that I could place money in that was going to be on that upward trend for the next couple of months. That wasn't scalable. And in fact, I didn't make much. And I know that it wasn't going to be enough to put us on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
So we went back to the drawing board, and this one particular thing that kept coming up was real estate. So I'm like, I don't know how to fix and flip. I don't have the time to do that. I don't have the time to do wholesaling because I'm in high school. Mom, you got a full-time job. So what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
And then little by little, we started to learn that we could actually do passive investments in something called multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, we just bit the bullet. We took an education course, and we just started to build connections and build relationships. They're also very much a mindset company, and they were like, what's your why? You have to figure out what your why is. At the time, I was like, I want to make enough money so that, my family has a secure future. But that's just, achieving financial freedom, building a financial legacy. And my mother was like, you're not in this business to make money. There's a reason why you're doing this specifically at your age right now and breaking that mold. And she's like, you have to think about that. You have to really reflect. So I reflected on it for a while, and I looked at her and said, I want to retire you. I want to help other people like you to get out of this rat race.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, is that what you want? I'm like, that is exactly what I want. I'm not going to rest until it's finished. And she's like, let's get to work then. And so for many months on end, we were originally in Massachusetts. When I graduated, I moved on to Tucson with my family just to invest here and also to live here. And
Mm-hmm.
we just started to excel. We actually helped close a deal, 152 units in Tyler, Texas with Cindy Harding, Michelle Jong. Excellent team. And then now we're working on another 64 units in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and looking at various opportunities in Texas as well, yet again. So, and to kind of rewind a little bit, she was like, do you think college is going to be in your future at all? Like, you can take 2 years to like finance or AI because that's the next big boom. I'm like, no. And she's like, well, why not? I'm like, why am I going to be in student debt that everyone keeps talking about and it's very hard to get out when I can leverage debt to buy these properties to make us income so we can teach other people? And she's like, if that's what you want to do, let's do it. So my college, quote unquote, has just been seminars, webinars, education courses, in-person events, networking, and just learning from the best. Because
Right.
I would like to be the dumbest person in the room because that's where you learn and grow. And instead of going to college, I'm going to build it. And I'm also going to be the professor. I'm going to also teach people how to do this. So that is how we got into the business, how I started, and basically what my why was to break the mold and make a change.
That is so impressive. And I have to say, your mom had to be, I know she was a huge driving factor, but just a mom that has the ability to not shove you into a mold. Like, hey, do you think college is an answer? Like it was more of an option than it was of a must. And the fact that she pushed you to help solve a family problem was absolutely amazing. And I have to admit, we met in conferences and we've been around each other in those environments. And one of my biggest problems with college is the person teaching the accounting class ever been an accountant? Have they ever done books on a $4 or $5 million business or a $1 million business? Have they ever actually done the books? Don't get me wrong. They can certainly teach you how to build a spreadsheet. They can certainly teach you how to chart accounts and reconcile things. No problem with that. But have they ever physically done the things that are actually helpful to business owners like myself on tax planning and understanding where money needs to move and what you need to categorize things in certain places? Me personally, I feel like you'll learn more investing in the S&P than you will the S&P. And I also feel like that you should learn from real people that are in the game. Like never take advice from somebody you wouldn't trade places with. And you will find that you will learn way more by actually doing and being in those rooms than you ever will in the college learning a concept. The
I
concept can only
agree.
teach you so much. Like when you're actually doing it and applying these skills, you're learning. Like you're learning on the go. And they're the best lessons you'll ever learn because it's the hard lessons that teach you the most.
That's right. And you brought up a very good point. Like, where have these professors and teachers been? Like my business and finance teacher, I had faith in him because he is actively investing. He's looking for other opportunities. I'll plug him in, Mr. Mello. And he was telling me, his entrepreneurial history and why he's teaching people about this. In fact, he had a friend who was a sponsor who's also part of the community then. And I'm like, wow, the world gets smaller and smaller. And there's another point that you touched upon where you want to learn from people that are actually doing it. I think the best way to learn real estate is by actually doing real estate. Like if you could link up with someone to learn with them and figure out what their mistakes were and how they learned from it and how you can apply to it, it's very crucial where they've already carved the path and they're ready to guide you. And you can see like the trends, you can see where they've come from, and you can learn right alongside with them. That's why this deal in Tyler, Texas with Cindy and Michelle is very important to me because it's the first deal that Mom and I are working on, and we're learning so much from it. And I was trying to put two and two together. I'm learning more in here for the past few months than I ever did in my entire high school career. I was like, I'm learning from those that are actually doing it, those who are in the business. They're not, for example, teaching the concept. They're actually teaching the real thing and actually doing it with us, where they're also a student, where they're learning with us, these new trends, there's always a new concept, AI, or there's more automation, and they're also learning this process, and we are too. So it's very refreshing to see that, they're not all the way up in the front of the lecture hall with a whiteboard and microphone, and they're teaching us. They're actually right next to us in the seat, learning with us and actually teaching us how to do it as well. So I think that's hugely important.
Amen to that. You had said something else that I want to go back to. You want to enter the room as the dumbest guy in the room. And, when I enter these conferences, I've got well over 20 years in this game. I've been through lots of different business ventures and been a part of a lot of big things. Been very lucky to steward some cool stuff. And when I enter a room, I always empty my glass. Like I feel like you cannot overflow a cup and drink from it. Like you have to empty something out. And it sounds like you're a constant student. No matter how much you learn, you're never the expert, you're the student. Is that correct?
Oh, 100%. And it doesn't matter how much your portfolio is or how far you've come. You should always be a student because there's always something new to learn. If you have shut yourself out from learning to think, like, I already know everything. I've been through 2008, 2010, 2003, 1971 when the gold standard came off of money. Like, sure, I mean that's great, but there's still so much to learn. Every day there's something new. And I would be arrogant and a fool to think that I know everything, which I do not. In fact, I always want to keep learning. I always want to be the dumbest person in the room. I'll give you an example. Just recently in November, beginning of November, I went to the New Orleans Investment Conference, and I actually helped launch a new network, or a media network with Russell Gray. And they were talking about gold, oil, uranium drilling, all these different trends. And I was learning so much, and I realized how small my community of multifamily is compared to these big financial giants. Robert Kiyosaki was there. Ken McElroy was there. Brian London was the host of this. And all these guys know trends. This is like the biggest investment conference in the United States, at least from what I know. And I was just walking around and listening to them and talking to some of the vendors and some of the speakers and interviewing them. And I was actually in the layover with Dallas Fort Worth coming back to Tucson. And I was like, I need to go to more of these conferences because I learned too much where I'm like, I don't even know how much paper I have, but I know for sure I do not have enough to put all this knowledge down and share with my community. It was so crucial, especially with the trends that they're talking about for 2026, 2027, and like where the gold standard is going to be, where the next gold boom is going to be. What's with silver? What's the next big thing that they're investing in? It's like instead of going to the news, go to them because they're going to hear it 3 weeks before the news does. And I want to surround myself with people like that. What are you doing to diversify your portfolio? What are you doing to get ahead of the curve that's coming? And just listening to them, I'm just blown away. So I always want to be a student of not just business, but also life. Everything changes. I don't know if tomorrow's guaranteed. I don't know if it is or isn't. But I know for sure with whatever knowledge I have, if I have to start over again, it would be unbelievable. So that's my 2 cents worth at least.
I love that. And, I always say your circle is your ceiling. And when you surround yourself around innovators, people that are constantly applying different avenues, different investment vehicles, and they're definitely thinking and they're shaping the way investments are done. Like the people you just mentioned, the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Ken McElroy's in the world. I'm sure Tom Wheelwright was in the room, which is the tax professional for Robert Kiyosaki. And you think about those guys, they have totally shaped the way investments are done. Russell Gray is another one. These guys think so big and it's so many different wavelengths, but they think big because they had to get out of a small problem. And the only way to get out of their small box was they had to think much bigger. And, it's just like Robert Kiyosaki. It's like, playing real life Monopoly. You buy so many houses and then it's a red hotel. And you do these things and you learn from it. And that's the cool part about surrounding yourself around these people is you literally are, your net worth is your network. So
100%.
Tell a story about somebody you met that totally changed the way you think. Like you went to a conference to accomplish something, to learn something, and then you met somebody that totally shocked you.
Oh, that's a very good one. Actually, it was very recently, August of this year. Mom and I went to Phoenix for this event. And just to go to the origin story, I'm a part of the Arizona Multifamily Mastermind, which is an event that starts at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard or Arizona time. And we always talk about our wins, our gains and gaps, and how can we improve. It's definitely a wonderful circle. And Ray Hightower, the host of this, was like, I have 2 tickets to this event, how to win funds and influence people, but I can't go. Mom and I were like, you know what? Let's just go. Even before that, it was Thursday night. Mom and I were just completely deadbeat. And we were like, I don't know if we should get on his call tomorrow. We're like so sleep deprived. And I'm like, out of respect for Ray, let's just get on. Even if we're just vegetables on there, let's just at least show support. And she's like, all right, I'll take that. So we go on and learn about this conference. And we're like, yeah, sure, let's go. So we go up to Phoenix in August. And we were going to head out to LA anyway for a networking event just to meet some people. So that was already en route. We go there and we figure, okay, this guy's going to sell us a course, whatever. We know who Russell Gray is, but if Ray Hightower knows him, then that's probably a good thing. So we're sitting there and he's talking about, sales, how to speak to the heart so I can send a message to the brain. And then he says this, he's like, I want to teach, young Americans and also middle America about these investments, like real estate and how to basically get out of the rat race. He's like, I want to teach people. I want to teach people to also teach other people, create disciples of this movement, this Main Street movement. So if investing in Wall Street was to be investing in Main Street, your butcher, right, your candlestick maker, your baker, all those kind of people. And I looked at Mom like, did he just say my why? And she was like, oh, no, probably. And then he was just talking about his mission with this particular subject. And then once we broke off a break, I bolted to the front and I looked at him like, how can I help you? Because what you just said is exactly what I want to do. And it changed my way of thinking because it's not just me out there that also wants to do the same mission. There's also other big players that have had a lot of success and their whys have changed. The mission has changed. Russell broke off his Real Estate Guys radio show with Robert Helms to take on this enterprise to teach people like me and also people like my mother. And I was thinking, even he had an epiphany like I did when I saw that our returns at 17 weren't doing good. He had an epiphany where he was like, I need to teach people about this. I need to serve other people so they could serve other people as well. And I was like, how can I help you? And then after that, we just linked together. And actually, I have this, the Main Street Media Network. This is my name badge. Mom also has one. And we were able to help launch this event at New Orleans, at the New Orleans Investment Conference. Now it's the main media network for the entire conference.
Wow.
And it was just incredible. I interviewed Ken McElroy, Robert Kiyosaki, all these big name speakers, and I'm still going through the interviews. But I realized that all these speakers that know Russell and also are friends with him also believe in the same mission that, it's time for a change because eventually the old guard is going to move on. Who's next? And they acknowledge that. So it was really an epiphany and a mindset change for me that just blew my mind to go, there's other people out there that have a similar mindset to me that want to change the way people think. And you change the way that I thought you could also teach people and have other people be teachers.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. I'm going to get religious for a second. Jesus had
I
12
love it.
disciples. What did he do? He taught them about the Holy Spirit and Christianity. Those 12 disciples went off, right? And then, well, actually 11. And then they started to spread the word. And then eventually other people started to spread the word. And now fast forward 2,000 years, Christianity is now a third of the world's religion. Just from 11, 12. And to me, we're doing the same, except it's with
Absolutely.
Main Street America instead of Wall Street. And
Absolutely.
I was just blown away. So I'm grateful to meet these people that have a similar mission to me. And it just completely blew my mind that there's other people out there. You just need to know who to know.
Man, thank you so much for being vulnerable and speaking up on that, because that's the truth. I mean, it truly is. I see so many people that struggle because they get stuck in just believing that they have to be in this one particular avenue. And you can't break the mold. Like, you can't step out. And then they struggle with faith, and hearing a calling and realizing, no, I can't answer that calling because I'm supposed to be here. Like, because my grandparents and my parents, they were doing this. So I can't step out and do anything else. I've got to stay in this path because I have to honor their legacy. But yet sometimes we hear this audible voice, and sometimes it's not an audible voice. It's like a someone that comes to us and says, hey, would you launch this media for me? Will you do these episodes, these interviews for me? And it propels you in a way, but you had faith the size of a mustard seed, and you didn't know where this was going to take you. And you probably still don't know where this is going to take you, but that didn't matter. You were in the moment and enjoying that moment. And I'll be honest, man, I watched some of those interviews, and I seen the pictures online, and I was blown away, and I was so proud to see a gentleman like yourself that has such humble beginnings and such an important why. And you're willing to go out here and talk about your why. You're willing to go out here and like post it on LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere to talk about what you're doing. And you're unapologetic about it. Like, I truly feel you'll be blessed in all the things you're doing. And I see you getting blessed in the public by the things you're doing. And you just got to keep it up, man. Like, you really do. Like, don't ever quit what you're doing.
No, sir. Well, anytime soon. I'll probably be the one person where everyone's going to joke, is he ever going to retire? I'm like, no. I'm going to keep going until my mission is complete. To teach as many people as I can. In fact, I'm working on Mom's branding right now, and she's always come back to the starfish story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
No, let's hear it.
So, I don't mean to steal Mom's thunder, but she has taught me this since I was little, especially with our faith. It made a difference to that one. There's a man on the beach, and he's walking along the shoreline, and he sees this other guy far ahead of him, and he's just tossing these starfish that are all washed up on shore, and there's thousands of them. I mean, just thousands upon thousands. He goes up to him, and he's like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to save all these starfish? He's like, I am. He's like, you do realize you're not going to save every single one. What difference are you going to make? The man reaches down, grabs a starfish, tosses it back in the ocean, and he says this, it made a difference to that one. I want to make a difference to that starfish, or as many as I can. I may not reach everybody, but hopefully I can make an impact big enough so when my time comes, I can go up there and look down and see the work that I've done and how many people are also taking that torch as well. Because I don't want to leave this world with a massive bank account. Look at Alexander the Great. He had all these riches and gold, but he's like, don't bury me with any of it because I can't take it with me. Just disperse it, distribute it. It's just me and then the afterlife. And I've always referenced that with my bank account may be humongous, but it's the impact that'll forever be lasting that I want to leave.
That's it.
That's
it, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's the reason that I do a lot of the things I do, is because I have hardly any fear of starting a new business, or, I have the education now that I can mitigate a lot of the risk. I can see things from a different angle. I can make something work. Like, I'm in the help business. That's what we do. But what's so important now that I realize is I do this for the reason that I'll go through some long suffering moments. I'll go through some times that are extremely hard to simply make it, because it's my calling. It's what I'm called to do. I'm called to serve in so many different ways. But the really cool part is that some people will see that and they're like, but Eddie was able to do it. Eddie threw that starfish back. Even though he couldn't save everybody, he was gonna make a difference to that one. And I know that people are watching, just like people are watching what you're doing. And when you continue to show up every day and do this, when you're not feeling well, when you're down on your luck, when things are just not working, when you've got 1,000 no's from investors, it doesn't matter. You put on a smile and you get up and you go after it again, because there's somebody watching that's hoping that you're going to make it, because you're their hope. And don't let them down. Don't let anybody down. So I always say in this business, do good things. Do good things for not the reason to be seen, but for the reason to inspire somebody that could see you.
Love that. And it's the purpose that you and I and many others are that are in this business, that we're serving a purpose that's a lot bigger than ourselves, where you're trying to throw starfish back in the ocean, so am I. And I watch you and your posts and I love them. There's people that watch me and my posts, vice versa. And, you know, there's other people that have messaged me before. They're like, so what do you do anyway? I've even had some of my friends who are stuck in college and they're like, dude, man, I'm done with this. What are you doing? Can you teach me? And I'm like, I was hoping you would say that. Finally, after 2 years, I've been talking about it. I'm like, I finally have gained interest to you. And they're starting to spread the word, and I'm starting to spread the word throughout my generation to go, you know, if you're not going to be an engineer or a doctor, I don't think you need a college degree. It worked in the past, but now it's outdated. Because I don't want to be laying on the surgical table and look over and the surgeon is on WikiHow. I don't want to be in that position. Like, just
No,
no,
you
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, or YouTube. Like, I don't want to hear, like, here's how to do brain surgery in 5 minutes. Like, I don't want to hear that. There's
Sure.
always a place for that, but I believe there's always a place for people like us to step up to the plate and be mentors to these people that want to break the mold. Because I want to go back to it. My mission to retire my mother and to help other middle Americans is crucial. Sure, I'm 20. I haven't been through the 2008 stock market crash. Sure, I don't have a 4K or have any experience, but I can learn from people that do. And I can also be the mouthpiece to share that mission with other people to inspire maybe my generation to say, hey, mom, hey, dad, I have a friend who's talking about this, blah, blah, blah. Are you interested? And they might go, you know, I haven't checked my IRA in a while or my 401k. And they might be enlightened. So, and like faith, for example, I have faith in it. And could it work? Absolutely. Could it not work? Absolutely. But I still have faith in it. I went to the conference thinking I have no idea where this is going to get me. I got into this business thinking I have no idea where this is going to get me. Hopefully this isn't a one-time gig. And I had faith that it was going to work. I had faith it was going to prosper along with the people that I'm going to help. And faith has proven its point. Faith has always come through for me. And it's put me in places that I sometimes go, why me? Just why? Who am I to take on this mission? But there's always a reason for everything. And I'm a firm believer in that there's a reason why the good Lord let us pick up this torch, or he even may have handed it to us. And we have no idea. And all of a sudden, one day, it's just going to light. We just got to figure out how many candles we need to light.
I love it. I love it. You know, you do such a good job of telling that story. And it's so true, because you're able to tell that story because it's a reflection of your life. It's a God story, right? Like you're living this every day, and sometimes you wake up and you're like, man, thank you. Thank you for the blessings. And I don't know what's next, but all I know is I'm here and I'm listening and I'm present, and we're going to go do whatever it takes. And, you know, I think the world needs, the influencers are important, don't get me wrong, but the world needs less influencers and more doers, more people that are true to the word, and they do influence, but they influence because they're doing. They're not
Integrity.
influencing because they're portraying this life, this rich life that other people could have when they're buying that life. You're literally an influencer by you're doing and you're living this life. And all you did is make the proper steps. That's all you did.
That's right.
You just showed up every day.
Yeah.
Consistent.
And, you know, absolutely. You know, I read this thing quite recently. You don't have to be a perfectionist. You have to be someone that's consistent, because consistency will always be perfection. Like your logo, for example, Eddie Austin VEX. When I was on your Game Changer Live Q&A, by the way, I'm going to plug that in. Please join it every Wednesday. I forget what time it is, but I know it's 3:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for me. But It says that stands for be excellent. And in order to be excellent, you have to do something extraordinary, right? So actually, it stands for be extraordinary.
Be
And
extraordinary.
I'll give you an example for those blessings that I'm grateful for. I have this book that I write my affirmations and my blessings in every
Yeah.
day. So I can reflect on it and just keep these blessings coming through the law of attraction. And in order for me to be extraordinary, I need to reflect on those. And in order for me to be extraordinary, I have to influence through my actions, because actions speak louder than words. You have a lot of influencers out there that do a lot of talk and they have like millions and millions of followers, but what are they doing? That's what I want to know, is that they do a lot of talk, but what are they actually doing? Like for us, sometimes we don't talk a lot, but we do a lot behind the scenes to help as many as we can, to be extraordinary, to be outside that influencer mold or that playbook mold. We're doing something bigger. So anyway, I just wanted to touch upon that a little bit.
Yeah, man. And that's really, so I had to recreate myself at one point because I wasn't happy with the way life was going. And the BEX got attached to the end of my name because it was a reminder for everything that I do is to be, it's the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. It's the extra. It's like what you do extra. And I decided to live an extraordinary life and to teach people how to live an extraordinary life. And I realized real quickly that the power that you have by doing extraordinary things consistently, people look up to. It's how you do anything is how you do everything. And doing what you say you will do is so important today. There's so many people today that just struggle to just show up. And there's so many people today that have such a hard time breaking anxiety and depression. When they have anxiety and depression around these great big things they're trying to do. But you could scale it back to this first small step. What's the first small step you can take? And from that, we're able to compound those effects. Like you talked about 11 people, 12 total. 11 had went out the first time. And now look at what's happened. Look at the movement that's happened because of that. Because every one of those guys felt underqualified. Every one. They were fishermen. They were mockers. They were liars. They were fighters. They were everything. They were not the perfect pick. They were not kings by any means.
One of them that was a tax collector.
Yeah, exactly. So they swallowed their pride. They did not look at their imperfections. And they went out and just spoke the good news. And look what's happened today because of that. So I would encourage anybody to do that little extra, to just show up, host a Zoom meeting, go to a conference, be somebody that's be able to have a discussion with around why you started this game, what you're doing to fix the things and the problems in people's lives. Because it's very important to me to see people like yourself go out here and teach people about self-directed IRAs and 401ks. Because I'm telling you, I have sat with several older men and women that are afraid to retire because they're afraid they're going to outlive the retirement. You worked your whole life to be stuck with this feeling, and you're old enough now you can't start over. Like you can't go get a higher paying job because you're not even employable to a high performance position. And it's sad. And it is so sad to think that at the life that you've lived to make all this money to one day retire is not even achievable for you. This is something we need to learn earlier.
It's an injustice to them.
Exactly. So we're getting pretty close to time here, and I want to talk about something for a minute. When you sat down with your mom and you realized the retirement probably wasn't an option on that path, break down the different steps that you physically took. Like, did you start whiteboarding that out? Did you put it down on a legal pad? Like, you had to start teaming up with a think tank, right? Like, and you were using your notes. What did you do to come up with this plan? Because I think everybody should do this. I think everybody should say, where am I going to be in 5 years? And you should somewhat know that. So what did you do to look at the snapshot of life early and say, hold on, if we apply the knowns, this is the outcome?
So for years on end with just school in general. My mother has always been my life mentor, but also my business and school mentor. Every night when it came to homework, we would sit at the dinner table after dinner and we would have a notebook and we would just write out the problem. What is the problem? How can we break this down? And after doing it for years on end, it was like almost ingrained in us to, well, we have a problem. Put it down on paper. Let's break it down. So when we had this very large scale problem to go, how do we even tackle this? We took some notebook and we just sat down at the dinner table again and we started to write out all these different investment options. And we started to research every single one. How can we get into this business and get ourselves on the way to passive investments to get us to retirement, right? And it was just breaking that down. Like, the problem was we don't have any passive income that's working for us. We're working for it like dogs, but it's not working for us like dogs when it should be. And it's like, where's our value? We don't see our return on investment of value being seen here. So we started to break it down more and just chisel away at these different options that we could get into. And then when we realized that multifamily or just real estate just kept showing up, we started to research and we just tore everything apart, every industry, fix and flip, the Burr method, wholesaling, buy and hold, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, all these kinds of things. And then multifamily just showed up. And we started to listen on some podcasts and some videos, and we're like, we could do that. We could do that. And we started to see a long-term projection of how we could scale it, 60 units, 70, 80 units, the cash flow, the equity at the end of 5 years. And just to see this compound and build where you could take your money and reinvest it so it can still make money for you, and you don't have to break the bank. You can also help to raise from other people's money, and to also share the mission. We both went, we could do this. We don't know how, we don't know where to start, but he who has faith with a mustard seed, right? And that's what we had. It may have been smaller than a mustard seed for sure, but it was something to start with. And we were at the bottom. We were completely at the bottom with this. And when we were at the bottom, the only way to go is up. And we're like, it's a long way up, but you know what? We won't get up there unless we try. And that's what happened. So the thought process was, we had the problem. We took what we know from all those long hours of homework just to break this problem down to come to the answer. Maybe in an unorthodox way, but if we still found the answer, then we have solved the problem. And that's exactly what we did.
I love that. And it sounds like the epiphany, the light bulb that went off is there's no more hours to trade hours for dollars for. Getting a higher paying job isn't a way out. Working more isn't a way out. Like, you had to multiply yourself. And how do you multiply yourself? Well, you figured out, there was no way to multiply mom. There was no way to get a higher paying job, to go to college and get a higher paying job. Like, you knew that the income was a cap. Like, in the current position where you currently lived, you're at the top of that scale for what you're qualified to do. So you couldn't move that. Like, that had the ceiling. And then there's a certain amount of hours. Like, if you're going to physically cook dinner, be a good parent, everything else, like, you physically could not inject more hours to trade hours for dollars, because there's also a tax, right? Because the more you make, the more they take, and the more you make, suddenly you spend more. So sounds like the thing you figured out is like, okay, none of these options will work. Like, can't get paid more, can't work more. How do I multiply myself? And you realized how to take a little and invest it to make your money work for you, to make money make babies. And that's what you figured out, is how to make a money multiply.
Exactly. We work so much for the dollar, but how much is it working for us? That's what a lot of Americans don't understand. And they think that their 401k is safe, they think their IRA is safe, their CDs, but guess what? It's tied to Wall Street. What happens if we have another 2008? Where are you going to be after that? My grandparents lost a boatload of money when the stock market crashed. I'm thinking, a lot of these people think Wall Street is great, but in fact, it pulls a lot of strings. But at the same time, look how big Wall Street is. It's not as big as Middle America. So if we can at least make a change, we can start a rising. And we could just start teaching people, being the disciples, spread the good news that, hey, you don't have to rely on your 401k. There's a lot of people that have had success with 401k, but you know what? Nowadays, for people that are starting to invest in their 401k, I don't think that's the option. And like you said, we had that epiphany to go, none of these options are working right now. What's the next option? And we want to provide that option for others that have the same vision.
Love it. So let's move in the lightning round. I got 3 questions for you. Just first thing that comes to your mind. Number 1, how are you using AI to implement in your daily life?
Smaller tasks. So what do I mean by that? There's a lot of controversy around AI, absolutely. They say that AI, it's killing creativity. Actually, no, it's helping us think differently, where we're delegating all these smaller tasks. Like now, if you use AI for the entirety of your life, then you might have a problem. But for me with social media, if I want to teach something about cash flow, I can start feeding it information. I can create like posts for me. Like through Capitalist Pro, for example, I can automate these posts. I can have ChatGPT create a post for me in my verbiage, in my language, when I be specific enough, and then boom. Instead of me flipping through my notes trying to figure out, what do I want to type about or post about for 30 minutes, this thing can pull it up in 3 seconds for me. When I need to analyze a property, do market research, I feed all the information it needs to know, and it starts giving me an analysis. And it takes me 5 minutes to double check my work instead of dedicating an entire hour of my life that I can't get back, when it can already do it for me, and all I have to do is just double check. And I can go through deal, through deal, through deal, through market, and just learn so much within half the time or less. So I use AI to take those little tasks out, and so I can learn quicker and dedicate more of my valuable time to the bigger things at hand.
Love it. Next question, quote that you often refer to.
Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron. So why do I say that? I have 3 shirts that say that. I'm a big fan of this because as iron sharpens iron, another man sharpens another man, right? And I believe that your network is your net worth. It's not what you know, it's who you know. That's why I surround myself with people, like for example, the phrase, if you're surrounded by 3 millionaires, you'll be the 4th, so on and so forth. And I wanted my circle to be where I'm that one piece of iron, and there's just a lot of iron around me where I can help sharpen them, they can help sharpen me. Because when we're just, colliding against each other, we're still sharpening each other. And I want to do that, where I want to be the iron that's ready to sharpen someone else, to sharpen their axe to go, you know what, you're ready for battle. Let's go, because I'll be right next to you. And I've always referred to that with the network and the people that you have. Like you said, it's your ceiling. But I also want to be surrounded where people can sharpen me, and I can sharpen them in return.
Absolutely. Last question. What's a book that changed your life?
The Secret. I would say that. And this book talks about the law of attraction and how the universe listens. Now, if you read the book, if you are a God-fearing man or God-fearing people like us, switch out the word universe for God. And in fact, it all makes sense. The dots start to come together. The law of attraction, what you put out in the universe, is going to send right back to you. The law of reciprocity, where if you keep putting out positive energy, it's going to send more positive things to you. If you keep putting out more negative energy, more negative stuff is going to come to you. Or if you say, or for example, physics, for every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You just have to figure out the math of what you're putting out there. So I think The Secret really helped to change my mindset to go, I can attract things. I could be a magnet of good things, of good opportunities and good people, and I'm going to utilize that. Could it be hocus pocus? Absolutely. But again, I had that faith to go, someone wrote a book about this and it's clearly popular. So something must be backing it up. Like, for example, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, they talk about this all the time, and a lot of these mindset gurus do. So I'm like, there's credible backing sources to this. Let's do it. So that's one book that changed my life.
Michael, where can everybody find you, buddy?
Great question. So you can find us at www.everforwardcapitalpartners.com. You'll be able to see our social media on there. You can get in contact with us as well. You can learn more about our story. You can also see our free book on there as well. It's 58 pages, a downloadable PDF, teaching you about who we are and how we do multifamily, how you can as well. You can see what events we attend. So if we ever meet, feel free to come over and introduce yourself. My number's on there as well on the website, so you can reach me at any time. But yeah, that's how you can reach me directly.
Love it. Man, thank you so much for this podcast. What would you tell a future younger self of you? Where you sit now, what would you tell a younger man that's just lost, or younger woman that's just starting out, trying to figure out this game, what would you tell that person from where you sit today?
Where do you see yourself tomorrow? What does tomorrow look like for you? Right? Be the difference. It may not seem it right now. It may seem overwhelming. You may seem underestimated or looked down upon. Especially being young in this industry, it happens often. But make 1% each day. Be 1% better for you, your business, and the mission. 1% times 100 days is 100%. Do for 200 days is 200%. Make it compound. Don't stop. Keep going. If you have a little bit of energy left, keep pushing. Just keep pushing until that mission is done. Help as many people as you can. And the one main mission I would say is, figure out who you are and where you belong in this world. And just capitalize on it and help other people to acknowledge your mission, like I do with my mom and helping to retire her. Find the mission, own it, and share it. That's my message for everybody.
My friend, that was beautiful. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Make sure you go follow this gentleman. Follow all the things he does. I'm here to tell you, he is doing the BEX vision. He is doing everything at an extraordinary level. And if you can do one thing for us, please smash that like button and hit subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one. And if this helped you, please share it to somebody else.